Everyone, welcome New York Times bestselling author and the founder of Kwik Brain, Jim Kwik.
All right. Can everyone stand up, please? You're like, he's one of those presenters. Make me stand up. It's good to see you. How amazing is this, by the way? Getting back together. Utah is one of my very favorite places. I've been coming here regularly for the past 15 years to see this nexus of individuals, of ideas, this collision of innovation. And I'm going to talk about upgrading what I think is the source code of all this innovation, which is the human mind. How many of you would like to have better brains? Raise your hand. Wonderful. So what I'm here to do is to jumpstart this gathering so you can learn everything today and tomorrow and get the most out of it. My goal here today is to make this session so valuable to you that you feel like you got this alone was worth your time and your money just for this session alone. And it's not because I'm so great, it's because you are born with the greatest wealth-building device ever between your ears called your what? Called your brain. And so I'm going to give you a little bit of an owner's manual for your brain and show you how to be able to focus, how to be able to reduce distractions, how to be able to concentrate, how to be able to remember things. How many of you feel like there's too much information and too little time nowadays? Like we're drowning in information. Look around, right? How many of you came here like to have a better memory? Raise your hand. How many of you forgot why you came here today? Have you ever done that? Have you ever, anyone feel a little absent-minded lately? Like maybe you walk into a room of your own home and then you just forget why you're in there? Or have you ever had this experience? You read a page in a book, you get to the end, and you just forgot what you just read? And you go back and you reread it, and you still don't know what you just read, right? Or how many people misplace things all the time? Or you know somebody misplaces things all the time? Your wallet, your purse, your cell phone. Your car keys, or if not your car keys, something much larger like your car. You ever see the people in the parking lots using their car alarms like GPS, trying to figure out, and then they realize they took like Lyft or Uber that day? I believe two of the most costly words in business and in life, I forgot. I forgot to do it, I forgot to bring it, I forgot the meeting, I forgot what I was going to say, I forgot that conversation. I forgot that person's name. How many of you met somebody today and you already forgot their name? Raise your hand. Is it important in business? Yes or no? A little bit or a lot? Because how are you going to show somebody you're going to care for their future, their finances, their tech, their venture, their family, whatever it is you have to offer them if you don't care enough just to remember what? Their name. Remember this, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you what? Care, right? So I'm going to show you a couple of brain hacks, ways of being able to utilize your brain to be able to get faster results in less time, and really faster, smarter together. I wrote a book called Limitless, and Limitless is not about being perfect. It's about advancing and progressing beyond what you currently believe is possible. So one of the ways of doing this is we do it together. So what I'm going to ask you to do is we're going to do a quick exercise. Now, by the way, who are the fastest learners on the planet? Children. How many of you have children? Raise your hand. How many of you once were a child? Raise your hand. Children, how fast can they learn a language compared to an adult? Or a musical instrument, right? They're rapid. And part of it is they're willing to play. And they're willing to make mistakes. How many of you are willing to play for this session? A little bit more. Perfect. So what I want you to do is I want you to get in groups of 3, 4, or 5 right now. Let's test this. Everybody has to do this. So get in groups of 3, 4, or 5. Introduce yourself. Do that now. Raise your hand if you need a partner. 3, 4, 5. Move around. Groups 3, 4, 5. Even in the suites, please get in groups of 3, 4, 5. If you're watching this, get into a group. Raise your hand if you need a group. Just join any group. Even 6, doesn't matter. 3, 4, 5, 6. Introduce yourself. All right, repeat after me. Shh. Shh. Repeat after me. Shh. All right, we're going to play a game together. I feel like we learn the best when we don't realize that we're learning. We learn best through playing, right? Education is one thing, but when you add some kind of entertainment, engagement, then you have real empowerment. So we're going to play this game, and the premise of this is, how many of you would like to learn better, have a better memory? Raise your hand. Right, everybody, right? Who doesn't want to have that advantage? Here's the key to long-term memory. Do this with me. Say this and do this. Information, put your hand out. Information. Oh, come on. Information combined with emotions become long-term memories, right? And you know that, right? How many of you, there's a song you could hear, it could take you back to when you were a teenager? Raise your hand. Instantly, just with a couple of notes. How many of you, there's a fragrance or a food you could taste or smell, take you back to when you were a child? Because the information by itself is forgettable, but when you add some kind of emotion to it, it becomes what? Unforgettable. So there are 3 key emotions to cultivate to be a faster learner. I think it's the greatest advantage you could have, because if you can learn how to learn, what can you apply that to? Everything. If you could focus, remember, think, retain, apply, you could apply that towards money, machine learning, martial arts, Mandarin, everything gets easier in your life. It's like the ultimate superpower. And so there are 3 emotions that you want to cultivate, because all learning is state dependent. All learning is state dependent. So we're going to play this game, and I want you to embody this, because just hearing something, you don't learn it, right? You have to feel it and you have to see it. And so that's one of the keys, is using multisensory learning. And so what we're going to do is we're going to embody. I'm going to use, how many of you used to pretend you were superheroes back when you were kids, right? We're going to do that again, all right? And because these 3 superheroes embody, for me, these 3 emotional states that you want to cultivate over the next few days, and then also maybe for the next few decades also as well. It'll give you the complete advantage, because you don't have emotions, you do them. There's a process for doing it. So what we're going to do is, the first emotion is that of fun. Do you learn better when you're having fun? Yes or yes? Wait, I just said yes or yes. Yes or yes or no? Yes, right? And so fun. And the superhero for me that represents fun is Spider-Man. Spider-Man. How many people saw the latest Spider-Man movie? All right. What I want you to do is I want you to face your partners and pretend you're do Spider-Man's move. Ready? 1, 2, 3, go. Wait, where did the sound effects come from? All right, Spider-Man, for those who don't know, is shooting the webs, right? So you're going to shoot the webs, but instead of making the shh sound, I want you to say fun and feel it. Ready? 1, 2, 3. All right, but really feel it. 1, 2, 3. Fantastic. That's Spider-Man. The second emotion that you want to cultivate that's going to help you learn better the next couple of days is that of focus. Focus. Now, for me, I think about this move here, a focal point. A focal point, this is Black Panther, right? This makes an X, right? And so that X is the focal point. Like, how many of you would like to have better focus? Raise your hand. This focal point, it's kind of like, we have a podcast, and it's one of the most binge-listened to shows on Spotify, on iTunes. Every show is only 10 minutes, or 15 minutes, 20 minutes tops. There are no sponsors or advertisers, and my goal is, we've done over 300 episodes. Very proud. Anyone listen to our show? Raise your hand. It's a wonderful, thank you. It's a wonderful way to be able to, it's like an academy, if you will, for accelerated learning, to teach you these skills, how to focus, the best brain foods, how to change your habits, right? How to learn multiple languages. And focus, I did an episode on working hard versus working smart. And I filmed it in a power plant. And the story that I told was, one day, imagine a busy power plant. And it just, one day, in a moment, it just stops. Everything stops, pure silence. And the team is running around trying to fix it, and an hour goes by, 2 hours goes by, they're not able to fix it. The manager freaks out, calls the local technician, and you guys are thinking, why am I still standing? But here's the thing, as your body moves, your brain grooves. So I want you to get this in your body. He calls the local technician and says, you're lucky, I'm right around the corner. He shows up. He surveys the plant for about 5 minutes, And there are all these beams, and on all these beams are all these electrical boxes. He goes to one specific beam, and it has all these electrical boxes. He goes to one specific box. He puts a big X on it with a magic marker. He opens it up, and inside are all these screws, all these wires. He goes to one specific screw, turns it, not even halfway, and what happens? Boom, the entire power plant turns on. And manager's like, thank you so much, you saved the day, how much do I owe you? And he says, that will be $10,000. And manager's like, flabbergasted, he's like, you were here for 5 minutes, all you did was turn one screw. He's like, just show me, like, give me an itemized bill. He says, no problem. He reaches in his back pocket, takes out a notebook, scribbles something down, tears the sheet, gives it to him, and he reads it. He says, I understand. He goes back to his desk, takes out his checkbook, writes out a check for $10,000, hands it to the technician. And you look at the invoice and it says, turning screw, $1. Knowing what screw to turn, $9,999, right? And the message here is not that you have a screw loose. The message really is that, first of all, knowledge is not only power today, knowledge is what? Profit. Right? Knowledge is only power, knowledge is profit. The faster you can learn, the faster you can earn. Everyone here, nobody here, it's not like it was 100 years ago. You're not paid for your brute strength. Today you're paid for your brain strength. It's not your muscle power. Today you're compensated for your mind power, your ability to think, solve problems, be creative, imagine. And it's interesting. The other part of it is, the other lesson is there's one screw that turned everything else on. I want to show you what those 6 screws are that will turn everything else on in your brain today. All right? And you'll remember it. But it starts with having greater focus. When I go like this, that point is a focal point. How many of you as kids used to use this magnifying glass to burn like a nice summer day and burn like leaves and stuff? Ants, you don't burn ants. But that point is very bright, right? That's very sharp. It's very bright. Now, when we say somebody is bright or they're sharp, what are we saying about that person? Say it out loud. They're more intelligent. They're smarter. Maybe they're not smarter. Maybe they're better what? Focused. So this X represents, for Black Panther for me, focus. That's the focal point. It's the one thing that turns everything else on. So I'm going to count 1, 2, 3, and you're going to do Black Panther. You're going to say focus. Ready? 1, 2, 3. But feel focused. Look at your friends. 1, 2, 3. Focus. Fantastic. And finally, the third emotion you want to cultivate, besides fun and focus, is, I like to alliterate. So let's make this ferocity, make it fierceness, all right? A confidence. And for me, the superhero is Wonder Woman. Yeah, a lot of Shiros here. What's Wonder Woman's move? Everyone do it. So the Wonder Woman pose, your hands on your hips, your shoulders back. How many of you saw Amy Cuddy's TED Talk talking about doing this power pose? Right, when you do this before a meeting, a sales call, it increases your testosterone, you're going to be more effective, right? So everyone, I'm going to count 1, 2, 3, and you're going to do Wonder Woman, and you're going to say fierce. 1, 2, 3. Fierce. And show your friends your $1 billion smile. 1, 2, 3. Fierce. All right, fantastic. So do you remember remember this, there is no such thing as a good or bad memory. There is no such thing this is my 30th year of teaching. And I can promise you have students in every country in the world, 195 nations. And I realized, I grew up with learning challenges. Some of you know my story. You might have seen me live on stage or on video where I'll pass around a microphone, 100 people will introduce themselves, and I'll repeat all their names from memory, or an audience will give me 100 random words or 100 random numbers, and I'll recall them forwards and backwards. I always tell people I don't do this to impress you. I do this to express to you what's truly possible. Because I promise you, each and every one of you could do this and so much more. Regardless of your age, your background, your career, your education level, your financial situation, your gender, your history, your IQ, you could do this, but we weren't taught. Does that make sense? Memory is a skill. There's no such thing as a good or bad memory. There's a trained memory and an untrained memory. So let's train your memory. Show Spider-Man. Ready? It's fun, right? 1, 2, 3. Great. And then what was focus? 1, 2, 3. Focus. And then what about fierce? 1, 2, 3. Fierce. Fantastic. Here's the game. Go back to back with your new friends. Put your backs together. Go back to back. Turn so you're not facing each other. Stand up or sit down. Put your backs together. 3, 4, 5, or 6 of you. Even in the suites, please. All right. Now, shh. Repeat after me. Shh. Wow. I'm going to count to 3. When I count to 3, when I say 3, you're going to turn around. Be careful, because in the aisles, you're going to turn around and you're going to pick one superhero and you're going to say their word, right? Their emotion. The goal to win is all 3, 4, 5, or maybe 6 of you have to match. All right? If one person doesn't match, you don't win. If all of you match, you win. And by the way, what's the sound you make when you win? Go. No, come on. Let's say your favorite sports team, so you win. 1, 2, 3. Wow, here you go. All right, now if one person or 2 people, they don't match, what's the sound you make when you lose? Oh, that was a lot more natural. All right, go back to back, clear your mind, think about the superhero and the word. 1, 2, 3. Raise your hand if you won. Raise your hand if you won. All right, that was only 20% of the group. Now, I know we have a lot more winners. I'm going to give you one more chance. Go back to back. You want to win here, right? You want to start on a winning note? Go back to back. Shh, repeat after me. Shh. Empty your mind. Be formless. Pretend you're Professor X. You're mind melding with your new friends. You're thinking, is she going to change it on me? And by the way, if you don't win this round, it's not your fault. It's totally their fault. Ready? 1, 2, 3. All right, high five your team, have a seat. High five your team, have a seat. And have a seat. All right, take some notes. Let's jump into this. You could take some mental notes. I encourage you, write it down if you can, or open up the notes in your phone. I'm going to go through the 6 keys to learning any subject or skill faster. I think it's the number one advantage you'll have in your life is your ability to learn. It's challenging, though, because school taught us what to learn, but math, history, science, Spanish. But how many classes were on how to learn? Where was the class on focus? Where was the class on concentration? Where was the class on remembering? I always thought it should have been the 4th R in school. They teach you 3 R's. What are the 3 R's back in school? Reading, writing, arithmetic. Obviously, spelling wasn't one of them. But what about recall? What about retention? Socrates said learning is remembering. I think memory can make you money. When you if you read Limitless or you listen to our podcast, your ability to remember things, remember client information, easily remember product information, give a speech without notes, be able to improve your business vocabulary. How many of you would like to have that superpower? And the good news is you already have it, you just weren't shown how to do that, right? So here, 6 keys to learning any subject or skill faster, and think about something that you want to take on. I think it's important to have a to-do list. How many of you have a to-do list? Raise your hand. I think it's important to have a to-learn list. Like, what's on your to-learn list? Because the more you can learn, the more you could earn. Because the brain is the ultimate adaptation machine. So I want everyone to remember this. Be fast. All right, it's an acronym. Be fast. To learn any subject or skill faster, the B stands for you need to believe. If you believe you can or believe you can't, either way, what? You're right? Who said that? Henry Ford said that, right? If you believe you can or believe you can't, either way, you're right. What's a belief? You know what? Before we got started out in the hall, somebody came to me and said, Jim, I have a horrible memory. I know you're the memory guy. I feel like I'm getting too old. I'm not smart enough. And I said, stop. If you fight for your limitations, you get to keep them. Isn't that true? If you fight, your brain is this incredible supercomputer, and your self-talk is the program it will run. So if you tell yourself, I'm not good at remembering people's names, You will not remember the name of the next person you meet because you're programmed your supercomputer not to. Does that make sense? Your mind is always eavesdropping on your self-talk. So what's a belief? How would you define a belief if it's so important? What's that? Conviction. What else? It's an idea that you're certain about. Let me show you what a belief is. Stand back up. You're like, oh my goodness. By the way, part of a coach, they get you to do one more rep. I find that by getting yourself to do difficult things when you don't want to do it, that's where life gets a lot easier. Because if you just do the easy things in life, procrastinate, put things off, whatever, life gets hard. But if you do the difficult things in life, life gets a lot easier, all right? And as your body moves, your brain grooves. So make a little distance from the person next to you. Just kind of come out in the aisles, a little bit distance, and just shake out your body. All right, stop. Now keep your feet stationary. I'm going to show you a quick exercise, and this could change your life. I want you, without moving your feet, just to point forward with your right hand. Your other right hand, sir. All right, good. Now, as you're pointing forward with your right hand, without moving your feet, I want you to turn to your right as far as you could go. And notice, as you take your neighbor's eye out, notice the exact point you're pointing at. Everyone do this. Notice, take a snapshot of where you're pointing. All right, come back center. Put your arms, empty your hands, put your arms by your side, not in your pockets, and I'm going to walk you through a quick 30-second exercise that will change your life. I want you to take a deep breath, exhale, breathe normally, and close your eyes. Now, in your imagination, in your mind's eye, I want you to imagine that you're pointing forward again, just in your imagination. See and feel in your body pointing forward. But this time, I want you to imagine you're turning twice as far as you did the first time. See and feel yourself turning twice as far as you did the first time. Getting a great stretch. It's pleasant. And if you can't imagine it, imagine that you can imagine it. All right? And with your eyes closed, I want you to see yourself now turning 3 times around, like you're made out of rubber, like you're Gumby. See and feel yourself going 3 times around, getting the best stretch of your life. And then one more time, thinking, what does this have to do with speed reading? With a big smile on your face, see and feel yourself going 4 times around. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now, open your eyes. Watch this. Point forward with your right hand and turn to your right as far as you can now go. Clap if you went further a second time. Clap. Have a seat, have a seat. Now, raise your hand if you went further. Look around. Raise your hand if you went further a second time. Raise your hand. Put your hands up high. Look at your neighbors. Now, my question for you is this. Were you physically capable of turning that far the first time? Yes, of course. Nobody took a yoga class when our eyes were closed, right? You could go that far. Where was the limitation, if there was one? Shout it out. In your mind, right? And you could say, well, I didn't have a belief on how far I could turn. How many beliefs do we have? Limitless, countless beliefs. Please write this down in your notes. All behavior is belief-driven. All behavior is belief-driven. How many of you want to create a new result or achieve a new goal in your life? Raise your hand. In order to achieve a new result, you need to do a new behavior, correct? In order to do that behavior, you need a belief that allows that to be possible. Does that make sense? This turning exercise, some of you went 25, 50% further when I was watching. Did you work harder for that? No, right? What if you could go 25, 50% further in other areas of your life without working any harder? What if you could improve your reading speed or your intelligence, your career advancement, your income, 25, 50%, right? Not working harder, but that's the power of your imagination. You know who uses the athletes, right? Do athletes just do physical training anymore? What do? Mental training, visualization, right? And so they see it here. Like what did Roger Bannister do in 1954? What? The sub 4-minute mile, right? Throughout human history, nobody could run a mile in less than 4 minutes. But if you saw the ESPN special, the documentary, he was able to do it because he visualized himself crossing the finish line, and the clock says what? 3 minutes and 59 seconds. Because he knows what you know, what all innovators know, what all entrepreneurs know, that in order to take the invisible and make it visible, you have to see it first. Most people say, I'll believe it when I see it, when it's probably the opposite, right? I'll see it when I believe it. And that's the power of that. And so that visualization is pretty powerful. So you could do that with all areas of your life, and I could explain why from your brain and your nervous system why that works. But what was more impressive when I saw this documentary, nobody could do it for all this time. One person does it. What happens after that? Other people start breaking the 4-minute mile. Now, was there big advancements in shoe technology and training methodology and nutritional support? Where was the change? Say it out loud. In a belief. Because what was the belief before he did that? That it couldn't be done, right? It wasn't even that it couldn't be done. The belief was the human heart could not sustain a sub 4-minute mile, and it would explode in your chest, right? That was the global belief. Now, I'm a runner. My last name really is Kwik. I didn't change it to do what I do. It's my father's name, my grandfather's name. So I had to be a runner. My destiny was pretty much planned out. I had to be a runner back in school, which is a lot of pressure when it says like Kwik right on your shirt. I have to be very careful when I'm driving, because the worst name to be pulled over when you're speeding on your driver's license is the name Kwik, because you're not going to talk your way out of that speeding ticket. And I get to do my mission, which is teaching you how to learn quicker, remember quicker, think quicker, focus quicker, read quicker, right? Because that's the time that you save. And so one person does it, all of a sudden everyone is able to do it. And the belief was, one person does it, then it allows it to be possible. So we change the belief, right? So all behavior is belief-driven. So that's the B in Be Fast. The rest of them I'm going to go through really rapidly. The E in Be Fast, the second thing, besides believing that it's possible, that you can learn it fast, the E is exercise. And I don't mean physical exercise, although people who are more physically active will do better on mental acuity tests. They'll have better focus. People who move throughout the day will have a better memory. Write this down, please. As your body moves, your brain grooves. As my body moves, my brain grooves. So I don't mean just exercise and just, doing CrossFit or Pilates 3 times a week. I mean moving throughout the day. Because we're all behind. How many of you spend a lot of time behind screens? Raise your hand. And they say, sitting is the new smoking. And I'm saying that if you take brain breaks throughout the day, or you work it out where you can stand while you're moving, or you just do little exercises throughout the day, even going for a 15-minute walk, it'll help your retention. But I don't mean exercise, traditional. I mean practice. Exercise is in putting things into practice. Because practice makes what? Progress. Practice makes progress, right? Practice makes progress. So I mean, knowledge by itself is not power. We hear knowledge is power, but the truth is, knowledge is potential power. It becomes power when we what? When we apply it. How many of you are really good at buying books? Raise your hand. Look around. Yeah, Amazon, add to cart, right? How many of you have books on your shelf that you haven't read yet? And it becomes shelf help, not self-help. So knowledge itself doesn't make your life any better. So the 3 questions I ask, and I encourage you to ask over the next couple of days to turn knowledge into power. Number 1, how can I use this? I'm obsessed with this question. How can I use this? That's where your right brain, creative brain, thinks of all the ways as speakers are sharing innovations, insights, instructions, ideas. How can I use this? The second question, even when I'm reading a book or listening to a podcast, how can I use this? Second question, why must I use this? Why must I use it? It has to go from your head to your heart. If you don't have the reason, you won't get the result. Even when it comes to remembering people's names, a lot of people don't remember names because they don't have a reason, right? What's the purpose behind it? So ask, why must I use this? And then the third question to ask, when will I use this? Because you know what the most powerful productivity performance tool you own is? Your calendar. And a lot of you will put in investor meetings and doctor's appointments in your calendar, but you're not putting in your implementation, your execution. I think, honestly, for every hour you spend learning something, reading something, listening to a podcast, listening to somebody at a conference, you have to spend an equal hour applying that stuff. That's the difference that makes a difference. Otherwise, you're just in ideation mode all the time. So get in that mode, exercise, put things into practice. The FAST, the F, to learn any subject or skill faster, the F, forget. And you're like, Jim, you're this memory coach. What I mean by that is some people will not learn better or faster, more thorough, because they feel like they know it already. They call it the curse of expertise, right? Because your cup is full. And so this is a reminder that your mind is like a parachute. It only works when it's what? When it's open. Right? And so a lot of people will say, well, I have 20 years of experience in sales or 20 years of experience in IT or whatever it is. And when you have a conversation with them, it's not always 20 years. Some people have 1 year of experience that they've repeated 20 times. Does that make sense? And so have an open mind, forget what you know about the subject. I would also say forget about distractions. And I know it's easy to say, harder to do. But how many of you, raise your hand, multitask? You do multiple things. Now the truth, the research is pretty conclusive. You're not multitasking. Multitasking is a myth. You're actually doing something called task switching. Your brain can't do more than one cognitive activity at once consciously. So what you're doing is you're switching tasks. But it costs you 3 things. That's hurting your performance, hurting your productivity, your profitability, certainly, and definitely your peace of mind. Number 1, it's costing you time. The thing you think you're gaining, you're actually losing. Because when you're focused on, you're in Slack or you're in email, a certain cognitive web is lit up to be able to do that activity. And when you have to switch to something else, you have to shut this one down and turn this one on. It could take anywhere from 5 to 10 minutes to regain your focus. So you lose time. The second thing it costs you besides time is mistakes. We do a lot of training, Facebook, Nike, Google, SpaceX, Virgin Galactic. And we work with also a lot of medical doctors. And surgeons who actually try to multitask during surgery make more errors during surgery. So you want to minimize it. So focus on one thing. But not only does it cost you time and mistakes, if that wasn't reason enough just to focus on one thing, it costs you a third thing, which is energy. It takes an immense amount of blood glucose. Your brain is only 2% of your body mass, but it requires 20% of the nutrients, the energy, the oxygen. It's an energy hog. It uses up so much, burns so many calories. But when you switch from one activity to another, you use more brain glucose. How many of you struggle with brain fog or mental fatigue? Right? It could come from multitasking. So the F is forget about what you know about the subject and forget about distractions. If things come into your mind during the next couple of days that are important, just write it down so you could free it, right? Don't resist it, just write it down and just focus on one thing. The A in Be Fast is active. Active. And that's exactly what we're doing. When I ask you to stand up and do these exercises, learning is not a spectator sport. Learning, like life, is not a spectator sport. The challenge is we all grew up with a 20th century education, right, that prepared us for a 20th century world. And, at the turn of the 20th century, it was working in factories and farms and being able to do things that now are automated, right? And that's the thing, where jobs are going to AI, artificial intelligence, automated, they're being outsourced. What's not going to be easily outsourced is the things that make you limitless. There is no limit to your creativity. There is no limit to your imagination. There's no limit to our ability to come together like we are today. There's no limit to our ability to solve problems, grand problems, right? But we're outsourcing our brain a lot of time to our devices. And so the A is you want to be active. Because we live in an age of autonomous electric cars, spaceships that are going to Mars, but our vehicle of choice when it comes to learning and performance, it's often like a horse and buggy, right? Because the schools haven't been updated as much as the world has changed. Does that make sense? So you don't learn, the human brain doesn't learn best by being lectured to. It doesn't learn best by consuming information. The human brain learns better not through consumption, but through creation. and co-creation, right, and cooperation. So how can you be more active the next couple of days, including what you're doing, taking notes, because there's a learning curve with everything, but there's also a forgetting curve. Studies show that when you are exposed to new information once, through a presentation, a podcast, a book, whatever, conversation, how much do you lose within 48 hours? What percent? Guess. 80%. That's the forgetting curve, right? And so the reason I'm giving you these tactics and these techniques is so you can retain more over the next couple of days, because that's not a really good time investment, right? That you're losing 80% every 48 hours. And how you could mitigate that is by taking notes, right? I'm not going to do it here, but if you search my name, how to take notes, we have a video, has millions of views. It's just the proper way is a scientific, neuroscience-based way of taking notes, right? Being more active, asking questions, getting up and doing activities, you're going to learn it better. And finally, the S and the T in FAST, the S stands for state. And we already covered this. Write this down again. All learning is state dependent. And I'm talking about emotional states, how you feel, your mood. For example, what was the state, the emotions you felt sitting in class, mostly, when someone's teaching? Shout it out loud. Go back to high school. Boredom, right? So confusion. Half the class is confused, the other half the class is bored, right? But on a scale of 0 to 10, what's boredom? 0, right? And it's information times what? Emotion becomes long-term memories. If the emotion is boredom or 0, what's anything times 0? 0. And you wonder why you forgot the periodic table, right? And so, like the state, who controls how you feel at any given time? Who? You do, right? Because you are a thermostat, you're not a thermometer. Like, remember this, as an entrepreneur, or anyone who wants to be able to lead and create, a thermometer, what's the thermometer do? What's its only function? It reacts to the environment. And sometimes as human beings, we react to things. We react to how people treat us, we react to the weather, we react to politics, right? We react to economics. But the happiest people, the most successful people in the research studies, they have agency, right? They're proactive, they're a thermostat. Because a thermostat doesn't react to the environment. What does a thermostat do? It gauges, it knows what's going on, but it sets a what? A temperature and what happens in the environment. It reacts to it. And the most important thing to control is how you feel, right? Like right now, sit the way you'd be sitting if you're really focused and interested in everything. I'm going to show you the final thing. Sit the way you'd be sitting if you're very focused and ready to learn. Sit. Now, why do you even have to move? But you know that your physiology is affecting your psychology. So control your state over the next couple of days. And finally, the T in FAST stands for teach. If you had to give a presentation or a TEDx talk next week about your 5 big learnings over the next couple of days, would you focus better, yes or yes? Would you take more thorough notes? You would own that. They call it the explanation effect. Because if you learn something with the intention of explaining to somebody else, you're going to learn it in half the time. All right, and that's the T. So what I'm going to share with you right now actually is an operating system that I created. It's the backbone of Limitless, and I call it the Limitless model. Can we show the screen? So we're upgrading the most important technology. You upgrade your phones, you upgrade your apps, you upgrade your software. This is about an upgrade of your mind, okay? And I want everybody to think about a Venn diagram. This is what I call the Limitless model. This is how you do and you advance and progress in any area of your life. Now, it's 3 M's. So I want everybody quickly to think about an area that you're stuck, where you feel you're limited. Where do you feel like you're not making progress? It could be any area of your life. Where do you feel like you're in a box? Now, that box, by definition, is 3-dimensional, right? There are 3 forces that contain that box. These are the same 3 forces that will liberate you out of that box. And I represent it by a Venn diagram, right? So something you're very familiar with. And I made it to be easy to remember, 3 M's. So the first thing that will keep you limited is, the first one is your mindset. Now, your mindset are the set of assumptions and attitudes you have about something, especially the attitudes you have about yourself. Things that would be in your mindset that I would write down what I believe is possible, what I believe I'm capable of. You could believe it's possible for somebody else to build that venture that could raise that kind of capital, but do you believe it's possible for you? So what I believe is possible, what I believe I'm capable of, what I believe I deserve, right? Because I could show you the great method on how to do something, just like remembering names and 10xing your memory. But if your mindset is I'm not smart or I'm too old, then you're stuck in that box still. If you want to create the relationship of your dreams, and your mindset is I'm not worthy or whatever it is, it's going to keep you stuck, right? And in the book we talk about a lot of ways to unravel those belief systems, BS, right? Your belief systems. Now the second M is your motivation. You could have a limitless mindset that anything is possible, that you could create that next unicorn, whatever it is, but you could still be stuck in that box if you're not motivated to get out of that box. Does that make sense? And so in the book, Limitless, and today you could actually get it on Amazon for half price. I, as an author, donate 100% of the proceeds to charity. We built schools in Guatemala, Ghana, Kenya, Alzheimer's research for women, because I lost my grandmother to Alzheimer's. I actually grew up with severe learning challenges. When I was 5 years old, I had a traumatic brain injury in kindergarten class, and I could not focus, could not remember, put in special ed. It took me 3 years longer to learn how to read. When I was 9 years old, I was slowing down the class. The teacher pointed to me and said, "That's the boy with the broken brain," in front of the whole class. And adults have to be very careful with their external words because they become a child's internal words. So this is mindset, but the motivation in there, I give you a 3-step formula to overcome procrastination. It has to do with purpose, has to do with maximizing your energy and breaking things down into small, simple steps. But the final M, if you have limitless mindset, limitless motivation to get out of that box, maybe that's liberated, but you could still be stuck because you're using old methods for raising capital, old methods of marketing, old methods of reading. Like, you're not born with the ability to read, right? But when's the last time you took a class called reading? How old were you? Not like a college literature class, but how old were you when you took a class titled reading? 6, 7 years old? So the difficulty and demand has increased a lot, but how we read it is still like a child, right? So we're using old methods. So the goal here is most people are shrinking. They're downgrading their dreams and goals to meet the current situation. What if instead you say, no, I don't want to downgrade my goals and dreams. I should upgrade my mindset, right? My motivation and the methods I'm using. And that's really the goal. Going back to the power of teaching and how I use this, I learned something, and the next day I got a call from something brand new about neuroscience applied towards accelerated learning and innovation and creativity. And I get a call from a chairman, the CEO of a major film studio, and they said, hey, can you come and train our team? And I taught this new, remember the T, fast, teach? I taught it, and it was my best teaching. And maybe because when I was walking through the hallways, I saw their movies like Avatar and Star Trek and all these movies that put me in a childlike state, right? Afterwards, the chairman says, that was amazing, best training we've ever done. Gives me a tour of the studio lot, and I saw this movie poster of Wolverine, right? And I was like, I can't, and it's really, to geek out, they just announced Deadpool 3, Hugh Jackman's coming back, and I'm so excited about that. But I was like, I can't wait to see it, but it wasn't coming out for a few months. The chairman picks up his phone, and 5 minutes later, I'm sitting in their theater with 3D glasses watching Hugh Jackman fight all these super ninjas, right? It was the best Friday afternoon for me, because I couldn't read. I taught myself how to read by reading comic books. And something about the stories, the illustrations brought it to life. And afterwards, he comes to get me. He's like, how was the movie? I was like, it's great. I was still like a 9-year-old kid. I was like, you don't know this, but I couldn't read as a kid. I had this brain injury, label broken. I taught myself how to read comic books. My favorite comic books growing up were X-Men, Wolverine and the X-Men. And when I was 9 years old, I found out when I was reading the comic books late at night, under the covers when my family thought I was sleeping, that the X-Men school, some of you know this, was in Westchester, New York, where Professor X taught all these superheroes. And that's where I grew up, outside of New York City. And I told them when I was 9 years old, on the weekend, I would ride my bicycle around the neighborhood because I wanted to run away and go to that school. I wanted to find my superpowers. I wanted to find my super friends, right? Where I fit in, because they weren't the strongest superheroes, but they were mutants. And, and I felt like I was a mutant with my condition. Anyway, he's like, Jim, I don't know you like the X-Men. We have another 30 days of filming a new X-Men movie in Montreal, Days of Future Past. You want to go on set? And I was like, wow, I've never been on a movie set before. This was in 2013. And I was like, what can I do for you? He said, do the same thing you did for us. Teach them how to speed read scripts, memorize their lines, be focused on camera. You don't have to rely on, teleprompter. I was like, I could totally do that. The next morning, Saturday, I get onto what they call the X-Jet in LA, and I'm the last one on, and the entire cast of the X-Men is on that plane. And I don't even see Hugh Jackman and Patrick Stewart. I see like Professor X, Wolverine, and I'm sitting between Halle Berry and Jennifer Lawrence going to Montreal, right? And I got to train my superheroes, the cast and crew. When we land, to end this story, the very first scene that they shot took place where? In the X-Men school. And I just got to see my superheroes come to life. It was like I found the superhero school, right? When I get home a week later, there's a package waiting for me. I open it up, and it's this image here. It's me with the cast of the X-Men. I'm the Asian dude in the middle. Like, who photoshopped that Asian dude? But it's me and the entire cast. Jennifer Lawrence behind me, Halle Berry. But even better than that was the note from the chairman, and this is the lesson. It said this: Jim, thank you for sharing your superpowers with all of us. I know since you were a child, you've been searching for your superhero school. Here's your class photograph. Thanks. So I bring this up, and I end with this, is that, I believe that there's a version of ourselves that we haven't met yet. There's a version of yourself, your team, your vision, your venture that's patiently waiting. And the goal is we show up every single day until we're introduced. And so if you want to find out how I trained all those superheroes, taught people how to remember names, remember lines, read faster, we created something special for the group here. It's free. There's no cost. 95% of everything we publish is free. We just want to democratize this, bring this to the world. If you can't see this is a it's worth a significant investment. It's free for the group here at Silicon Slopes. And it's also on the link. It's in my link in my Instagram also as well, so you can find it there. But my main message for all of you is that we're on this quest to reveal and realize our fullest potential. And how do we do it? How to become limitless in a limited world? We do it together, right? And this is exactly where it happens. That if an egg, think about an egg. If an egg is broken by an outside force, life ends. But if it's broken by an inside force, life begins. Great things begin on the inside, and you have greatness inside of you. Thank you very much.